Hello, welcome to the channel here. Hopefully everyone's having a great day, and I want to make a video in response to one of the more famous financial YouTubers out there. His name's Graham Stephan, if I'm saying that correctly, and many people have watched his videos. I have too, love his videos. He's put out really, really good stuff, and I think one of the great things about YouTube is it's really provided an avenue of a lot of people who are knowledgeable to give a lot of excellent financial advice that years ago you would have had to have gone to a financial advisor, or who would have not been readily available, or someone who perhaps you're not entirely sure how how much information of that is legitimate. So and again, like I said, a lot of these videos on YouTube from these financial, I don't want to say advisors, but financial coaches, or these people who talk about financial videos, anyone from Beat the Bush to Graham Stephan to Andre Geek. A lot of these guys are very, very good. And sometimes, however, intermixed with that good advice, you do unfortunately get some advice that's not so good. So today I'm responding to a video from Graham Stephan, and it's titled WTF Just Happened to the Housing Market. And in this video, he actually goes through and explains how, for many millennials and Gen Zs, if you haven't already purchased a home, it might be a good idea for you to rent instead. And in this video, Graham Stephan, he outlines a lot of the math behind it. So looking at the all-time high housing cost, the allegedly lower renting cost, and then looking at the interest rates, which, again, let's be honest, interest rates, a lot of people are saying they're high right now, but historically, interest rates are actually very low. We're not living in the 1980s where they're talking about 15, 16, even 17%. So again, I'll make this video really quick, or at least quick in terms of my videos. And I'll say, here's the one thing that even if your math is correct, you could show me the numbers, you could show me the rental cost, you can show me compared to housing prices, which again, housing prices are at all-time highs. However, it is still more advantageous for you to buy a home as opposed to renting. And one of the things that, and I hate to use the term, but I'm going to, so sue me, but one of the terms that I hate that all the quote unquote eggheads, these math nerds, like to do is they run the numbers and they think it's simply a mathematical equation, which it is not. And one thing I like to really emphasize here is that because if you own your home, you're not beholden to a landlord. And I know in a lot of these videos that compare renting to housing, they do address this issue. They do address how, yeah, it's great to own your own property. It's great to not be answerable to a landlord. But one thing that I don't really see with these videos is how when you're in that escrow account, when you're in that amortization schedule, one thing that happens is your mortgage payment, unless you're on a tax abatement or anything like that, your mortgage payment is pretty well set. What they don't address is how rent, what it is today, is not what it's going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, certainly not 2 or 3 years from now. So, yes, today, maybe mathematically it might work better for you to rent. That's not what it's going to be in 1, 2, or 3 years. Your rent is always going to be going up. It's very rare that you will ever see rent go down. And yes, people like Graham Stephan on this video about the housing market, he does talk about the cost of the PMI insurance. He does talk about the cost of property tax and the cost of unexpected repairs, and also the price of homeowners insurance and how homeowners insurance is always going up, okay? But again, do you not think that rental properties don't factor these items into the cost of rent? Of course they do. You are paying for insurance when you rent. You are paying property tax when you rent. You are paying for PMI if the landlord has to have that within the property structure. You are paying for the cost of repairs on utilities. On all these items, it's factored into the cost of rent. Okay, so all this is a wash, but why is it so much beneficial to own a home? And I know I've talked a little bit about this before, but why is it so much more beneficial to own a home than it is to rent? And the primary reason, if I could just boil this down to one simple thing because I know we live in a world where we love to overcomplicate things, right? The more you overcomplicate things, the more convoluted it is, but it's really quite simple. The number one reason you should own a house is because it is financial security, right? You can and will get to a point where you own that house outright. Yes, you'll have property tax. Yes, you'll have homeowners insurance, but you can get to the point where if you actually own that property and have a ton of equity built into that, there is security knowing that you can ride out storms that happen in life. And that is one thing, all these videos, and you can Google it. There'll be 1,000 YouTubers on here that are going to tell you you should rent instead of own. But they're not going to tell you what's going to happen when you lose your job and you're 1, 2, 3 months away from eviction or from getting kicked out of that from your rental property or where you live, right? At least you can always refinance and do different things with a home. You have more protections and so on, but life happens. If you lose your job, if you run into a health issue, if suddenly you find yourself facing some kind of financial crisis or medical bill that doesn't give you the opportunity to go to work every day, if you have to wake up in the morning and you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, if you have 10 years, 15 years history of perfect, immaculate housing payments, and then suddenly 10, 15, 20 years into your 30-year mortgage, you find yourself laid off without a job, you find yourself fired because you have a horrible boss, and yes, you will, okay, many of you will. Um, those are things that if you're renting, you're only a few months away from not being able to make those rental payments from the street. And like a lot of these YouTubers that you see, like Graham Stephan and some of these other people, they come from backgrounds where they have the ability to either recoup lost income, or they have social safety networks, or they have certain skills that allow them to ride those storms. I know we hate to use the term average because average has become this big evil boogeyman, but guess what? By the pure mathematical numbers of it, most people are average. Most people are not going to start their own business and become millionaires through their business, right? Most people are not going to be making six figures. Most people are not going to be riding around on their yachts. Most people are not going to be making thousands and thousands of dollars on YouTube. So the second that you in the real world, because I live in reality, a lot of these people you see, they don't live in reality. But what I do think is going to happen for people who, if they had bought their home as opposed to renting, they're going to have a little bit of that financial peace of mind security. Again, you can refinance, you can work with your bank or your lender to come up with agreements, you can claim hardship. There are protections that you will have as a homeowner with a good stream and a good history of payments that you are not going to have as much as a renter. Again, no one wants to be evicted, whether that's from your home or from a rental unit. But I will tell you, homes are not, and I hate how homes are tied to the term investment. Homes are not an investment in at least in a sense of monetary gain, okay? What they are, they're a place to live. Homes are insurance, so you actually have a roof over your head. And then homes, once you pay down that equity, or I'm sorry, once you get full equity and pay down the mortgage and you own your home outright, if you do have any freed income, guess what? You can go and invest that income. And I think that's actually like what, fourth or fifth baby step on Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Once you pay off your mortgage, then you can go and start investing a lot of that money. But again, a lot of people neglect when they're comparing just the math, right? Renting to owning. A lot of people do not consider the fact that your financial situation is not this static thing or upwardly dynamic thing. A lot of times people's income go down, okay? A lot of times people, they have medical emergencies. Maybe they can't work. And again, I've repeated this, but it is so true. And again, you're not going to have numbers. I'm not going to run numbers here in front of you for this because they don't exist in the way that you can when you're comparing the rent to the housing prices too. And I don't see the YouTubers running these numbers too, all these financial YouTubers, because they don't talk about these non-numbers based things that can happen to you in the real world. Okay, again, if you have a 15-year history of perfect payments on your house, you can refinance that and get extend that life of that loan if you want to. Or conversely, if you buy a home, guess what? Maybe you do happen to come into some blessed times where you get a promotion, you're able to do a second job, you get some of these financial resources, and then you can make an extra house payment each month to cut down on your amortization schedule. So again, love some of these videos out there. I think they're great. Love what they're doing on the financial YouTubes, but I think we get so worked up in the math that we forget that we live in reality where people do lose their job, people face medical emergency, people face financial crisis, and all these things. Owning a home, having a roof over your head that does not belong to some landlord or some company, that's a wonderful thing. So again, like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And again, just kind of going off the cuff here. I don't do any editing because I don't know how. But again, I think it's good information. And again, don't let anyone tell you that as a general rule of thumb, renting is better than housing because they're throwing some financial numbers at you. That's when you know they're wrong. And that's when you got to turn away from that stuff. So, what do you think? Comment in my video below. Thank you.